February 8th is now officially Henry Knox and the Noble Artillery Day here in Framingham. If you missed it, don't worry. It's a brand new local holiday. All you gotta do to celebrate in true Henry Knox fashion is bring 59 cannons through the Center Common on horse and oxen-drawn sleds, hide them here for a month, and then use them to force the British Army out of Boston. Oh, and you gotta do the whole thing in secret. It might sound wild, but this all actually happened right here in Framingham 250 years ago. So we wanted to learn more about Henry Knox and his top-secret mission that changed the course of American independence and made a pit stop in Framingham on the way. I'm Lilia Cormack, and this is the Frame by Frame.
So the story of Henry Knox in Framingham actually began the year before on April 19th, 1775. So it was the Battle of Lexington and Concord.
After losing the first armed conflict of the Revolution, the British were chased back to Boston, beginning the colonists' year-long encirclement of the city known as the Siege of Boston. Their goal was to surround and contain the British forces within the city, so elevated areas overlooking Boston, like Bunker Hill and Dorchester Heights, provided a great geographical advantage, though it also meant their short-range tactics, most famously used in the Battle of Bunker Hill, wouldn't be effective.
The problem was you need long-range artillery to be able to span that space and sort of break through the siege.
Well, they didn't have long-range artillery, and losing the Battle of Bunker Hill showed them just how badly they'd need it if they had any chance at ending the stalemate they were stuck in. But they weren't totally out of luck.
Earlier in that year, in 1775, a large amount of cannons had been captured at Fort Ticonderoga in New York. But the problem was there were all these cannons in New York, and the siege was taking place in Boston.
That meant someone had to transport them. Henry Knox was up for the challenge. He was a 25-year-old bookshop owner who had a keen interest in military literature. Because of that expertise, one of his patrons, John Adams, recommended him for a position in the Continental Army. As colonel of the Army's artillery regiment, he suggested the mission to George Washington, and he was appointed to lead it.
It is very difficult to bring 59 cannons from New York into Massachusetts.
And what made it even more difficult? It was the dead of winter, meaning their route was covered with snow and ice. But that didn't dissuade Henry Knox. He assembled a crew and left Fort Ticonderoga towards Boston in December of 1775. Using horse and oxen-drawn sleds, they transported the cannons nearly 300 miles. But they couldn't bring them all the way to Boston quite yet.
What they wanted to do is actually get the cannons close enough to Boston so that they could be easily deployed, but not so close that the British forces would know what exactly was going on. So they had to choose a location across these 300 miles that would fit that perfectly. Framingham was the place that was chosen. They actually brought the cannons into Framingham and they hid them here.
The cannons arrived through the Center Common on January 24th and stayed in the area for a few weeks. During this time, it's reported several notable revolutionary leaders visited to inspect them, including John Adams. They were then strategically deployed to arrive at Dorchester Heights on March 5th.
The reason why March 5th was chosen is it was 6 years to the date of the Boston Massacre. So it's very intentional. The Continental Army was making a statement to the British forces in Boston, saying we did not forget the Boston Massacre, we are retaking this area.
And retake they did. Just under 2 weeks later, the British retreated from Boston on March 17th, which is now known as Evacuation Day. The cannons decisively ended the stalemate between the two forces and sparked the British withdrawal that ultimately led to the colony's independence. To honor his journey, the History Center hosted a reenactment of Henry Knox's mission on the Center Common. Anna says this helps keep his story and the lessons that accompany it alive.
A lot of times we look back on the Revolutionary War and it feels so distant. Experiences like the commemoration on Sunday 8th bring that history alive. It reminds us that history is created by very real human beings who went through really challenging environments. I mean, it was so cold on Sunday. That was a tiny little taste for us of what, the people who were involved with the Henry Knox Noble Train of Artillery experienced for 300 miles.
So as we celebrate the nation's 250th year of independence, take a moment to remember the critical role Framingham played in making that possible.
This was a major turning point in the Revolutionary War. They had been trying to break the siege of Boston since Lexington and Concord the year before. And the location that was chosen to sort of take care and safeguard these cannons is Framingham.